Welcome back to The Line. Paisano's restaurant in Albuquerque made national headlines this month after selling Black Olives Matter t-shirts in their restaurant. Owner Rick Camuglia has been quoted as saying that this simple phrase has, quote, become inexplicably viral. Sophie, many people are horrified they're selling these shirts. The social media response has been swift, it's been loud, but he remains undaunted.
I gotta say this.
Please.
Initially, he puts up the sign, Black Olives Matter. He gets the feedback from the community,
Right.
positive and negative, but there's a significant number of people who are saying, you know what, this is offensive. The black, making a joke about the death of black men is not an acceptable, it's not a joke. He takes down the sign. It seems like he gets it, and then he doubles down.
Right.
I don't think that you get to say, when it's already been made very clear to you that this is an offensive statement that you've made, I don't think you get to say, well, I'm sorry that you think it's offensive, or I don't think it's offensive, or people can't take a joke.
That's right, that's a big one.
I'm sorry, when you are not a member of that community, you do not get to go around saying people don't take a joke. And as much as he's gained business, apparently,
Right.
from people who think it's awesome
Right.
that he has this, frankly, racist statement attached to his restaurant now, he's also lost business, and I do believe that that will continue.
It's a long game. That's right. Restaurant game's a long game. We'll see. Tom, interestingly, it's Sophie's lead up there. What he actually did as well is he went on Fox News, and that's when it really exploded. He got quote unquote and finger quote support. And my question has always been, which is more important to you? The support you get from the people up the block in your own community, or someone in Columbia who thinks it's just sort of ha-ha funny, and wants to get a t-shirt and a hat? Do you lean this way or do you lean that way? Do you see what I mean? That's part of the long game. If you want to attach yourself to the people overseas, that's fine, but you know.
Yeah, if you're a restaurant,
Right.
you're community marketing, you're neighborhood marketing the whole way.
That's right.
And this is a restaurant and a restaurant group that is very confident in knowing its target audience. And they're, I agree with Sophie that, at first they said, oops, we'll take it down, and then they doubled down. I thought that was a great analogy. But I think that their statement, and I'm by no means in defense of them or anything like that. I've been there once, but it was like 15 years ago. They're attacking political correctness. I mean, that's plain and simple, and that appears to be anyway their target audience. I know this just because we had the opportunity at our firm to comment on this particular story when it broke, and people who were calling up saying, "You're just so politically correct. I can't believe it." And I think that that's the audience that they're trying to tap into. Is it's not necessarily a Trump group, but it's that group that is so angry about political correctness that they will do anything. And I think that one of the things they can do now is go eat at
Is that the way to sell tuna, black olive?
It's not the way I would say it.
$25 black olive. I wonder how long that market is going to.
That's right. I know you're not defending him, certainly, but it's an interesting thing. Let me swing to the senator as well. Look, he's running a business. Tom's right. You got to find your audience and go for it. But at the same time, there's only so many shirts you can sell. You know what I mean? And after that, what? There's nothing left. The community has said no to you practically at this point. So where does this man take it from here?
Well, personally, I thought the marketing was brilliant.
Why?
And,
How so?
Well, I'm Italian.
Yeah.
And I was raised in a family that ate a lot of olives. And I think there's two pieces to this. One is what Sophie mentioned. We have to get away from this point where if somebody doesn't agree with what we're doing, that we have to stop it. I think people need to
Why do we have to get away from that? What is the problem there?
And isn't that the message? People who say
we shouldn't get away from
this is
that.
so terrible, they're saying the same. They're saying the same thing.
Why?
You shouldn't be able to be politically correct.
Why? Because everybody's unique. Everybody's individual. Everybody has a different viewpoint. They have a different way of saying things. So, let's talk a little bit about Black Lives Matter. So, Black Lives Matter would like the public to think that the biggest challenge facing black youth are racist police officers.
I'm going to stop you there. With due respect, I don't think we need to cover Black Lives Matter. We need to cover Black Olives Matter. And so what I want to ask you is this man not being provocative? He's trying to provoke something here. I don't think it's necessarily just commenting on political incorrectness, as Tom mentioned, but is this not a poke in the eye to people? And is there not a reaction due to him when you poke someone in the eye? Is that not fair?
Well, there is I mean, he is getting a reaction. He's getting a reaction where people support him, people don't support
But you
him.
just said people shouldn't be reacting to them. You know, that people should just be able to say what they want and not react. I think the man's been lucky so far in a lot of ways that, I mean, it's not as if Jesse Jackson's parked on his front doorstep, you know,
Yet.
Senator. It's pretty easy sledding for this man so far.
Well, and I don't know if you guys understand the passion around olives.
Oh, you
I mean,
have
if you're-
got to
if
be
you're-
kidding me.
if you're-
No, you
if-
have got
if
to be
you're-
kidding
if
me.
you're Italian,
that
the
is so
passion around-
insanely disingenuous.
Well, no, but
that's
it's
ridiculous.
true. There are
the
people
passion
that-
of olives versus the death of African Americans. No,
Thank you.
that is unacceptable. That is unacceptable.
me swing to
you
Alicia
can
for
go
a
be
point.
passionate about olives over at the Olive Bar at Whole Foods, but you cannot say that your passion for olives is equal to the death of people in our community.
Well, and that's not what he's saying. I think the problem is that he's isolating green olives, and I think he should have a T-shirt that says "Green olives matter too."
This
This is
isn't an
disgusting.
issue. This
Wonderful.
isn't an issue of political correctness. This is an issue of accepted institutionalized racism. And we can cover it up as much as it is. That's what it is. He thinks it's okay because institutionalized racism has been allowed to exist for so many years. Now, would we make a joke about Sandy Hook?
Thank you.
course
Would
not.
we make a
Yeah.
joke about 9/11?
That's right.
Would we use it as a gimmick to promote our businesses?
Right.
I think not. This is the same thing. This is about black lives. This is about people who are losing their lives across the country, and this movement represents that. I don't think that we can argue that it's okay to use that as a gimmick for marketing or otherwise.
Exactly right. So with the national stuff, Larry, the now lamented Larry
Yes.
Wilborn's show is gone now, but he did a brilliant spoof on this as well. And what is this doing to the city of Albuquerque? This is now an international story. And I'm getting feedback from friends out of state saying, you all seem to accept this going on here. Nothing seems to be happening here. And I think that's what's
the
upsetting to
reporting.
me.
I think the reporting on the issue has tended to point out that there has been a local backlash
Okay.
against it, and so I haven't seen completely uneven representations of that. I'm not sure that I would consider this a black eye
For the city.
for the city.
Okay.
But I do think it has illustrated a nationwide and maybe worldwide, to your point, maybe worldwide problem that still hasn't really been adequately addressed. I mean, we say race, we have a Supreme Court Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court who says the way to get over racism, essentially, this is a bad quote I'm doing, but the way to get over racism is to get over racism. Well, we're clearly not over it. It's not over. And moments like this really illustrate that we have more work to do, further to go.
That's right. You know, I wonder, and I want to come back to you, Senator, at a certain point, and not just beat you up tonight, but Alicia, if this was Cleveland with a 35% black population versus New Mexico with a 3% black population, do you think Homeboy would have put that sign up?
I don't think he would have
don't
had the
think he would
guts
have
to
either.
do that. And, you know, I would hope he wouldn't have. And I still sincerely hope that he pulls this back because
Yeah.
we may not have a black eye yet from it, but it makes me embarrassed.
Right. Now, what we're not saying here, Tom, and I don't think anyone's saying, the man does have his free speech rights.
Absolutely.
There's no question about it. No one's arguing that. It's in how you do it that is the point here.
Yeah, and I mean, he's inciting emotion. He's not inciting a riot.
Right.
If he was inciting a riot, then that would be, significant. I mean, but he has found a target that works for him, and he's going to try. Whether we agree with it or disagree with it or think it's about something else, that's part of the discussion we can have.
That's right.
It would be bad if all of a sudden we said, you know what, everybody has to think this particular way. And I think that this restaurateur is all in, and maybe this is part of his exit strategy to see, you know what, let's see what happens.
Right. Let me finish with you, Mark. I hear your point. I really do. You just kind of caught me there a little bit earlier.
Right.
Because is it not trivializing something? Let me put it this way. If there was no such 3 words as Black Lives Matter, would he have put up signs that said Black Olives Matter?
Probably not.
Probably not. So is it not just a cheap stunt at the end of the day? Can't we just go there and agree on that? It's okay to be
I-
tasteless in this world. You can be tasteless. It's
I mean,
okay.
You can't read a man or a woman's heart intention. You know. So, for instance, I used to wear a shirt, "Got Choice." Okay, and when people think of choice, what do they think about? They think about abortion, right? Well, it's actually school choice, and it attracted a lot of attention. So, you can't read a man's heart. I know I know a little bit more about olives, being Italian, than most. My son married a woman that doesn't like olives, and we almost kicked her out of the family. But you know, we can talk about whether or not Black Lives Matter is helping to solve the problem of racism. We can talk about whether or not white lives matter, brown lives matter, red lives matter kind of discredits what the Black Lives Movement is trying to do. My problem with Black Lives Matter is they're not dealing with the structural issues. And they're just pointing to one issue of racist cops killing black men. But there's a lot of structural issues that need to be addressed. Racism
Isn't it okay if others handle that and they just handle this bit? Right? Well, you know, isn't that okay? Just kind of divvy up the work, so to speak? Black Lives Matter doesn't have to cover every issue that comes up for policy for black people. They can just do this one thing about cops, and we have the NAACP, we have all these other folks to handle the other stuff you're talking about. Isn't that okay?
Well, it is, but I think we need to look at the big picture. You know, 6,000 black youth are murdered in America. The majority are murdered by other black men.
People like to bring that up. I don't know why that's relevant. I don't know why.
So why aren't we talking about
People
that
talk about it
problem
endlessly,
too?
Mark, in the community.
The
I
structural-
promise
the
you,
structural
I
problems
promise you,
that lead to these
in the
things.
African American community, this is an endless discussion. Trust me. I absolutely trust me. Now, when we come back to the line, our panelists will debate an effort to stop a federal effort to allow trans people to use the bathroom that aligns with their gender identity.